Hi, everyone. I'm Carli.
And I'm Sophia.
And this is Away She Goes, a podcast from her adventures.
Each episode will help you feed your wanderlust with travel tips, stories, inspiration, and more. Away she goes.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Away She Goes. Today, Sophia and I are going to be talking about a topic that I know Sophia in particular is very excited about. We're going to be talking about van life.
Yay!
Which Sophia has tons and tons and tons of real world experience in. I do not. So what I'm going to do is, before we start diving deep with Sophia sharing some of her stories, her tips and tricks, I'm just going to give you a basic overview and some facts and laws about van life. And then we'll dedicate the rest of the episode to me asking Sophia commonly asked questions about van life. So Sophia can give her input on her experiences and how to live your best van life. So from 2021, van life has been really trending upward across the population. According to whereyoumakeit.com, thousands of people live in vans and the movement is continuing to grow each year. And if you were to search hashtag van life on Instagram, it turns up over 7 million posts, which is up 312% from 2017.
Insane.
Some people, that's so high. Some people live in vans full time, while others, like Sophia, do it part time. It's whatever's right for you. And converting your van, Sophia, I'm sure will tell us more about her experience with this later in the episode. About a third of people spend less than $5,000 converting their vans. But depending on the complexity, it may take a while. It could take upwards of a year, depending on how fancy you get and how detailed you want to get with your van. And many campers choose to utilize solar panels. That way you're not as reliant on finding other sources like electricity or fuel to
power your phone.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I don't know what's going on with me today. So one thing to really be careful of during your van life experience is the laws. And it's tough to educate people on the laws. And Sophia, I'm sure you've seen, they're so different everywhere you go. What is allowed in Germany may be very different than what's in Norway, maybe very different than what's in the United States, and so on. So I'll give you a very basic overview of like some very common laws that are relatively universal, but always make sure to research specifically where you're going because the laws can and will change based on where you're going. So most of these are local laws, again, which is why they can change so drastically. For example, in Germany, it's legal to park anywhere for the night while en route to restore your driving ability. So to help, if you're tired in Germany, there obviously are some exceptions. And Sophia, maybe you can enlighten us on what those are, but it's
National
legal.
Parks. Okay. Nature reserves, mostly stuff like that.
But other than that, for the most part, it's legal to park wherever to get yourself rested.
Yes, but only if you're going somewhere. So very famous example, if you go to the beach and then sleep there, because in Germany, it's really, you go there and then you go back, kind of. You can't really go along the beach too far, along the coast. Then you will get fined because, you should go back. You're obviously not en route anymore.
Interesting. And how do they, like, if you were to get caught, how could you prove that you were going somewhere? You know, what's to stop you from saying, oh, I'm on my way somewhere else? You know what I mean?
Oh, nothing is to stop you. And it's only, so that's why it always works, basically, except for when common knowledge tells the police that obviously you're lying because
nowhere else
it's
to go.
An end destination, kind of.
Got it. Okay. It is illegal to park your van on any private property without the permission of the owner of the property. And this doesn't just include residential properties. This includes business properties as well. Campgrounds anywhere are often going to be your best bet for having a secure place to park overnight. But the downside to that is usually campgrounds have some kind of cost associated with them. Usually it's not too high, but it's more than nothing, which can be a damper on the trip for some people. And technology is going to be your best friend. There's tons and tons of apps out there. And I can only assume that as this movement continues to grow, the number of apps and resources is going to continue to grow as well. Some popular ones are iOverlander, HipCamp, and Allstays. And one for Europe specifically is Park4Night, for the number 4. Boondockers Welcome is an interesting one too. That's a website. And if you pay a $30 annual fee to be a member of that website, it's almost like Airbnb or Vrbo in a way. People can register to have their properties on the website. And if you pay that annual fee to access it, you can access different people's houses where they will allow you to park in their driveway or on their property overnight. So
I love that.
it's basically like a big networking website for people who are in vans, people who want to let people in vans stay on their property. So when utilizing these apps and when looking for a place to park in general, don't be a dick. Respect the locals, respect nature. You know, don't just barge in and leave trash everywhere and be loud and be disrespectful. Keep in mind,
Also, don't poop in the bushes.
oh God, people poop in. Oh God, I'm not surprised. It doesn't even surprise me. So yeah, don't be a dick. Respect the locals. Respect that you're in somebody else's home while you're traveling and you're on your adventure. That's great, but don't ruin it for the people who live there. Don't ruin it for your fellow campers, and don't ruin it for future campers as well. Do you want to talk about Portugal?
Yeah, don't ruin it for future campers, because when too many campers behave like a-holes, then of course the government is going to do something about it. So, for example, in Portugal, I've been there a few years ago, and my friend and I, we collected a lot of trash. We made it our hobby because we could only get a 100 pack of trash bags. So we were like, well, we have 100 bags now. We're not going to use all of them. So we're going to use the rest to collect trash that we find on the beach, on the nice spots that we parked at. But that didn't do the trick. That wasn't enough. So now in Portugal, it's very strict where you're allowed to park. You don't have this where you can roll up anywhere and sleep there for the night anymore. And the fines, they're very costly now.
All because a bunch of people ruined it.
Yep.
Yeah, don't be selfish. You know, like,
Exactly. If there's designated camping parking spots, park on the designated camping parking spots, even if the other ones have a nicer view.
right, like you're not the only one here. You're not the only one it's
Exactly.
affecting. Whatever you do, if you're littering, if you're pooping in the bushes, whatever it is, like you're not the only one being affected by this. Other people are affected immediately and other people are affected in the future based on your actions. So don't be a dick. Sophia, since you obviously have tons of van life experience, I've been so excited since we started. We knew that this was an episode that we wanted to do almost a year ago, by the way, everybody.
Yay.
I knew that this was an episode that we were going to want to do. So what I'm going to do for the rest of the time is I'm going to ask you questions about your van life experience, because obviously your real world experience and your time on the road and your travels have given you an advantage where you're able to give advice and share stories and tips and tricks, do's and don'ts that a beginner or myself, as somebody who does not do this, definitely would not know. So my first question, what type of van do you have and what kind of amenities do you have in your van?
I have a VW, so Volkswagen, or Volkswagen, as you like to say in the States. A T5, which is one of the smaller ones. Like, you can't stand up inside, but it does fit a full-size bed. Well, in length, not really in width. But we'll come to that.
Kind of got it shoved in there, huh?
Yep, it's a pull-out bed, so
Okay.
it folds out sideways. So I can sleep there by myself on the one piece, or I can fold it out and have a bigger space to myself, or bring someone camping with me. That was very important to me. What other amenities do I have? Let me think. I have a sink and a tap that runs with a foot pump. So I have running water, although it comes from a bottle, not a very fancy water tank with a 12-volt tap, which some vans have. But I decided, for me, I just wanted simple. I'm fine with simple.
Your van has better amenities than my house has when my power goes out. Because when
True.
my power goes out, I have no water.
Yep. And also, I do have power. I have a solar panel on the roof. Like Carli already said, it's very popular because that way I can charge my phone. Basically, it's most what I use it for. Phone, camera, sometimes laptop. I recorded some episodes in the van and used the solar panel to charge my laptop while I was recording. That was pretty badass. I did have a fridge, but I didn't use it as much as I could have. So I declared it a waste of space and chucked it out and just replaced it with, those cooler bags that you would take if you went on a boat trip, on a picnic or
Hmm.
something, where you just
Yeah.
chuck in some ice and then
Hmm.
whatever needs to stay cool. Yeah, I have that now because it's the same. It's just wastes less space and electricity.
You were in the van. I'm trying to think. Definitely Alistair Humphreys, you were in the van.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then
Alistair Humphreys.
there were a few of ours that you did in the van also. I don't remember which ones though. Rosanna, yep.
Rosanna, yeah.
That
And
was our foodie
Ashaki.
episode. Yep, I remember. Yeah, a lot of the earlier ones you were in the van, I think. I was just at my house.
And then I also have a lot of storage space. I have like a fold out table. I do have a black water, no, it's a gray water tank. So where the dirty water from my sink flows into. I technically have a shower, which is just a pressurized water container that then has a hose attached to it. But I've used it for showers together with a kiddie pool that I can fold out. Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, but
Oh, I like it.
sometimes it's all that you need. What else? I have a toilet, which sometimes bigger vans don't have a toilet, and I'm wondering like why. It's so simple these days because you don't have to have these like big bulky chemical toilets that like old RVs have. You can make really small. In German, they're called Trenntoilette. I have no idea what the English word is, but it's basically a separation toilet. So it separates your urine from your feces, and that way it doesn't smell as bad. And that way you can just you can have a container like a bottle or something, or a big jar in the front for the liquids, and pour that into wherever you get rid of your other wastewater. Somewhere safe, not nature.
Yes, don't just dump it on the ground, please.
Yep. And then your poop, you put a trash bag in there, and you can either use like kitty litter to make it last a few days without smelling, or you can just do like a dog poo bag and close it right away and chuck it into the next trash. And there you go. Toilet. It's so simple.
So that was actually a question that I had that I don't even think is on my list of questions for you. So when you're at a campground or when, how do you know where it's acceptable to get rid of like your wastewater, for example, or your feces? How do you know? Obviously, again, you wouldn't just dump it, wherever, but like do most campgrounds, any campgrounds that don't have facilities, toilets and stuff, do they have like specific places where you can go to dispose of those things, or is it just kind of something that you learn where to do it as you go?
There's a specific sign for that actually in Europe, which is like a camper van, and then there is an arrow down below it, kind of, which means you can like discharge your wastewater here. But also on apps like Park for Night, it shows you for every campsite. But also sometimes cities just randomly have these places where you can get rid of your wastewater. And yeah, then it's quite simple. It's just a hole in the ground mostly. And there you can put your gray water, which is like the water that comes when you like wash your hands, wash your dishes, stuff like that. You can also put your pee in there because it's just pee. But if you have a chemical toilet, then you need a special place to clean that. They're often like just on the backside of the place where you get rid of your gray water, but it's a different place. And it's really disgusting when people put their chemical toilet waste down the regular drains. And it can also clog them because there's, of course, toilet paper in there, which in the Trenntoilette, you just have the pee. So, yeah. And then if you have the Trenntoilette and you have your feces in a bag, you can just basically chuck that into any large non-recyclable bin.
All right. Let's pivot from the bathroom because I wanted to know. I was curious. What is your favorite feature that you have in your van?
Well, to be practical, it's definitely the toilet. I didn't have
And we're back to the toilet.
And we're back to the
We're back.
toilet. Yeah, for the first trip, I didn't have the toilet.
Oof.
And then in the morning, we left the place where we were camping and there were no toilets there. And I'm not the person who likes to go into the bushes because if everyone does that, it's also not very good. Like, I see if you're doing wild camping in the middle of the forest, then yeah, okay, fine. But that's something different.
You're not at a
So
public campground in close proximity to dozens of other people.
exactly. Like, it wasn't a public campground, I think. It was just some parking lot or something. But then we drove like for half an hour through like the north of France and then into Belgium until finally, sweet Jesus, we came upon a restroom, like a highway area with a restroom. And like, yeah, from that moment, I was like, okay, I don't know how yet, but I'm going to have a toilet in this van because
This is this is what
it's
living in Europe is
unbearable.
like, folks. See, I live in the US. Living in Europe is, oh, I drove to Belgium to use a toilet today. I crossed like
Well,
3 different borders to use the toilet.
to be fair, we were headed that way anyway,
All
and we were
right.
quite
Okay.
close to the border. But
Okay.
still,
All right.
still,
All
it
right.
was funny that, like, even in France, we stopped at 3 different locations because they were said to have public toilets, but they didn't.
Oh my God.
But then finally in Belgium,
Thank God for Belgium.
yes.
So from a practical standpoint, it's the toilet. From like a fun standpoint, what's that favorite amenity or favorite feature?
That's a really good question. It's the back window.
Okay.
That might sound very random, but some vans, they don't have windows in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love sitting in the van and looking outside through the back window because, I mean, yeah, van life, you always think like, yeah, you're outside all the time, but it's not like camping. You do enjoy time that you spend in your tent, so to say, which is your van in that case. And when I'm at home, I'm not a person that likes to be like out and about 24/7. So
Same.
when I live in the van, I'm the same. I spend hours on end just sitting in there, reading a book, watching some TV shows, and staring out into nature, which is way nicer than staring onto your neighbor's wall.
Yep. Staring out at the road, which is what I'm currently doing here. All right. What made you decide to pursue van life? And when did you start? Did you start kind of before it was as popular as it is now, or did you start hearing about it and think, oh, like that sounds interesting?
I don't know exactly when I first heard about it. I think I saw like the advertisements for like indie campers and stuff like that, the first bigger rental companies for vans. And then I was like, oh, I would love to try that. And my best friend and I were thinking about taking a vacation together. So then we ended up renting a van in Portugal before Portugal was so problematic for campers. And I loved it so much. It was the simplest camper. It just had a bed and a shelf, and that was it. No anything else. No toilet. That was challenging too. A lot of bar and mall visits there to use restrooms. But I loved it. I loved the freedom, the waking up by the seaside. And that's when I decided I want to have a van in the future. Took a few years from there, but made it happen.
All right. So what I know, this is such a tough question. I always ask people, what's your favorite trip? And everybody's like, oh, I don't know, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you have a favorite trip that you've taken in the van?
Yes, and it's the 6-month trip I took when we recorded all the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
The one where I was actually more like living in the van. Like right now, I'm taking
Mm-hmm.
weekend trips. I took one over Easter, which was nice and refreshing, but very different because I didn't go as far. But on the 6-month trip, I went from Germany, took the ferry to Sweden, then drove along the east coast of Sweden up until I hit Finland, and then straight up to Cape North, Norway, fleeing the mosquitoes, then Norway all the way up to Cape North, and then slowly down the west coast, taking the ferry back to Denmark, down Denmark, then over through Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. And then at some point in France, I decided, well, it's kind of cold now. I should slowly head home. Yeah. Originally, I planned to go all the way to Portugal, but that hasn't happened yet.
Just so our listener, I know, but can you explain what Cape North is for some of our listeners? Because Norway's pretty big. So for those of our listeners who don't know what Cape North is.
Cape North is the most northern point of the European mainland. Technically, it's not though. That's the fucked up part. There's a tiny little piece of land which is very hardly accessible. You have to hike there for 4 hours or something. Right next to it, on the same peninsula, kind of. And that's slightly more north. but that's not the one they built the road to. So everyone goes to Cape North, and
So Cape North it
that's
is.
north then.
Okay. So you went all the way up to the northernmost point of Sweden or Norway.
Yes.
And drove all the way down the entire length of Norway and then went through.
Yes.
So jealous. I would have met you in Norway had I made it there.
I know.
But I didn't because the borders weren't open. I'm not upset about it.
Not at all.
All right. Not at all. Do you have a dream trip that you want to take in the van or a van? Like if it's out of Europe, do you have a dream trip that you would want to take in a van anywhere?
That question just got harder because if it was in my van, I would say, yeah, maybe I would love to do Scotland or Ireland. But then also the shipping is really expensive to there. Mm-hmm. But then if it's just a van, then all of a sudden New Zealand comes into play. Because I think New Zealand would be really nice. Canada, of course, too. Because I'm really much more of a moderate climate kind of person. So I think...
Don't go to Canada in the winter.
Yeah, no. I'm talking summer trips, maybe like spring or fall trips. No, I'm thinking about like Central America is really nice too. But I think that would be way too warm for me. And especially in a tiny little tin box on wheels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Central America, the problem also is the humidity. It's like the southeastern United States also is in the summer. The humidity makes it feel way hotter than it actually is. And it's just like, it's suffocating. It's terrible. When I went to Puerto Rico, which isn't even Central America, it's Caribbean. I was in Puerto Rico. And for some reason, I thought to wear jeans that day, which was fine because the weather was fine. And then we went to the rainforest. So there I am hiking through El Yunque in fucking jeans. And I was like, I did not think this morning. I was not, because I just put on jeans, like forgetting that we were going to the fucking rainforest. And there I am hiking through El Yunque in jeans.
I love that story because
I had to like peel them off of my legs.
I totally get that. Like, because it's not really an everyday thing to like think about walking.
Right. I didn't think, I'm going to a tropical rainforest today. Yep. And then I literally had to like peel them off of myself when I got back that night. Because I was just like, this is just like, wow, that was a dumbass. That was Carli's dumbass move of that trip.
Yeah, we all need those.
Every trip I've always got one. I've got like one dumbass thing that I do. And that was it for Puerto Rico. Social media. So obviously, we know with traveling that nothing typically goes to plan, and that as nice as our pictures are on social media, often that's not how our trip has actually gone. So I'm sure the answer is yes, but can you kind of describe how actually living and camping in a van is different from what we typically would see on social media?
Yes, especially because I made it a whole point to document my #vanlife reality, as I like to call it, on Instagram, and made like a story reel, which I just pulled up to like check back. For example, there were mosquitoes and they were so bad. They would come through the little nooks and crannies of my air vents.
No.
Yeah, I've never had that.
No.
I've been in the south of France in summer, which they have mosquitoes, but they're so aggressive in Norway and Sweden and Finland, like anywhere like above the Arctic Circle in summer, if it's warm enough and not too windy. And the midges too, they're also.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh, I hate bugs.
Mm-hmm. There was this one really ridiculous thing, but I also talked about that in another episode where I first cut my hand and then also sprayed soap in my eye. But that's not really an everyday thing. An everyday thing would be more that you're not always at such a glamorous destination. Oftentimes, for example, when I was in Bergen, a really good place to park near Bergen is IKEA. You have a toilet, you have a restaurant that you can afford, even in Norway. So, yeah, it's not all that glamorous.
IKEA.
It's IKEA.
It's IKEA.
Yeah.
IKEA's fun.
And you feel safe because they have lights on at night.
Because you're at IKEA.
Yes.
I'm going to interject, not to answer your question, but, I know that you've posted even in our Facebook group about this as well, how when you're on the road, you kind of feel this pressure to be always doing something every day.
Yes.
And how you've kind of had to learn that it's okay to lay in your bed and watch Netflix with the dog like you would while you're at home. And it's okay to not always be out doing something every single day, every single minute.
Yes, that's also very important when traveling in a van or like doing van life long term, I mean, because you will get travel fatigue if you do that. If you go around, it's like similar to burnout in your job almost on a lower level, where then you don't find any joy in doing the stuff that usually brings you joy anymore. because you're at some place and you have all this accessibility with your van that you don't always have. If you fly to Barcelona and don't have a car, you're bound to going places by public transport. With the van, you don't have that, so the world really is your oyster and you can do anything. But that's the problem. You have this mindset and you have this thing that you see on Instagram where everyone does cool shit all the time. Remind yourself that's not the reality, and also that's just exhausting. So give yourself a break. Maybe just park somewhere nice and just look out of the window. Some days that's enough.
Traveling is exhausting. And I love
Yes.
the action of I love traveling more than I love doing anything else in this entire world other than petting my dog. But I love traveling more than I love anything, and it is even everybody does. I get exhausted.
Yeah.
There are times where I'm on a trip where, as much as I'm having a fantastic time, sometimes I just don't want to do anything.
Yes. And especially for us ladies, like it all depends on our stupid cycle. And it's like we can't do anything about it. It's just like you hit a wall, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, well,
yep,
that checks out. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been nice. I'm just gonna spend the day doing nothing.
And then if you're like me, you feel like, I'm somebody who, because I want to travel to so many places everywhere, when I travel to somewhere, I and this is me putting this on pressure on myself. This is a me problem. I feel like I have to see everything there, because what if I never come back? I have so many other places that I want to see. What if I never go back to Hawaii? And what if I didn't see this one thing that I really wanted to see in Hawaii, and now I'm not going to go back, type of a thing. So I always have this pressure almost to see and do as much as possible, because of I guess pressure is the right word, the pressure that I've put on myself. But sometimes it's okay. There was a day in Hawaii that my mom and I were supposed to go on a hike early in the morning. And we both decided the night before, we would have to get up at like 5 a.m. And we both decided the night before.
No, I get that.
We're not doing it.
Yeah. And then on top of that, with van life, the thing is, the things that are so simple in everyday life, like doing laundry, doing showers and stuff like that, it's so much harder in van life. So that adds on top, like to your mental capacity. Like, where do I sleep tonight? Where am I? What is the route that I'm taking there? Do I have to empty my toilet first? I need to take a shower. I need to wash my clothes. All these things, like where's the next supermarket? Finding the right stuff at the right supermarkets if you have a special diet, for example. Of course, it's all worth it at the end of the day, but don't neglect those facts. Don't think I'm so tired, but why am I tired? I should be doing more stuff. Give yourself a break. You deserve it.
Right. Because you're not only worrying about everything that's extra stressful, and traveling is stressful. Yeah. It's a good stress and a good anxiety most of the time, but it is one of the more stressful things that you can do. On top of worrying about the travel stress, you're also worrying about basic amenities that you don't normally necessarily have to worry about. Where am I going to go to the bathroom? Where's my food coming from? How do I get rid of my wastewater? You don't just flush the toilet.
Exactly.
So you're worrying about all of these other basic comfort and like living amenities on top of traveling.
Yes. So
we've talked a lot about your experiences, Sophia. What tips would you offer to any of our listeners, anybody who's considering, entering in the van life movement, maybe getting a van and converting a van, or even just somebody who's thinking about it and might be interested in it? What tips would you offer people?
Okay, so if you're just thinking about it, maybe rent a camper first, go for a week trip with a friend or by yourself. Just feel it out, because it's not really for everyone. Like we just discussed, it's not just what it's on Instagram, it's also a bit more stressful than that. So it might not be for you, and that's okay.
I don't think it would be for me, honestly.
There you go.
Like it sounds great and it's interesting to learn about it, but I know myself, I don't think I would enjoy it because of how,
Yeah. And that's good to know that.
Yeah.
So if you want to start it and you're sure about it, of course, you need to get the right car for you. There's a lot of different articles that can help you, or just a lot of thinking you can do. Like, do I want a full-size bed? Do I want a full-size bed to stow away? Do I want a shower, a toilet? And either way, the stuff can fit into the smallest cars. You would not believe it. My friend drives a VW Polo, which is a tiny freaking car, and it sleeps too. So, and they have a shower, outdoor shower, but still shower.
Still shower.
Yeah. So even if you have a car and it's not a van, you can, of course, there's some tips and tricks where you can fold over the seats and put a mattress in with some boxes underneath so it's level. And then you can store your stuff in the boxes and sleep on the mattress, put in some curtains, and you already have an extremely low budget van that you can go on a trip with right away. If you're looking to buy something new, I would recommend to put in search filters. Like you download all the apps where you can buy cars, and you put in the search filters for the models or years or anything, any specifics that you have that you're looking for in a car, and you set the notifications on. Because especially with how popular van life is right now, these babies fly off the shelf, even the used ones, because I'm mostly talking about the used ones, because the other ones, they fly off the shelf. You buy one now, you can pick it up in 2 years. And that's not even grossly overestimated. You can probably pick it up in half a year, maybe a year if you're lucky. So a used car is the way you want to go, probably, especially budget-wise too. So yeah, that way you get the notifications. And if you like a van, email the dealer right away. Say, hey, I'm interested. Can we have a showing? Stuff like that. When it comes to remodeling your van, the best advice I can give you is be creative. It doesn't always have to be the fully wooden built inside that you see on Instagram so often. That, to be honest, to be very frank with you, I'm sorry, but it looks like a freaking sauna. It looks like a Finnish sauna to me. So
I feel like it also just makes it so unnecessarily heavy.
It makes it very heavy, and it's very unsafe in case of an accident.
Right, you could roll over.
Yep.
In a van that size.
Yeah. Also, the wood splinters. That's the problem.
Oh.
The wood that they use to build the panels inside a regular van, which is the one I just repainted them and put them back in there because I had time problems. I really wanted to get that thing done very fast, so that's what I did. Slapped some insulation behind the panels, recolored them, and put them back in. So yeah, be creative. For example, I have a little spice rack that I did like weaving. So you don't have to be good at all the crafts there are. But if you're just good at one craft, if you're good at sewing, you can sew something. You can sew little bags that you can then screw onto the panels or hang with magnetic hooks, stuff like that. So the sky's the limit when it comes to creatively building the inside of your van. And apart from that, when you actually do hit the road, listen to your heart. Listen to your gut. If you feel unsafe parking somewhere, leave. Find somewhere that feels safer. I've done that before. I think anyone has done that before, where you go somewhere and you're like, yeah, this feels a bit sketchy. I'm just gonna, where's the next? Okay, yeah, I could drive another 15 minutes. That's fine. Have a backup, and especially if you're a first timer, go to the place when it's still light outside. Because when it's dark and you're unexperienced, everything looks sketchy. And that's when you're in trouble. Because then you start panicking. And we don't want that. Snack Attack!
Hey everybody, and welcome to another segment of Snack Attack. This is the part of the show where I try snacks from all over the world and tell you what I think of them. So today I actually have some snacks from my very good friend and co-host, Sophia. She sent me a whole box of stuff from all over Germany and kind of Northern Europe, Scandinavia. And today I'm going to try a couple of snacks from Sophia's home country of Germany. To be fair, she also sent me some Milka bars, which are my absolute favorite chocolate in this entire world. I am sad to report that the Milka bars did not survive the couple of months in between me receiving them and me recording this segment. So RIP to the Milka bars. They were delicious. I do have a few other snacks from Germany that I'm going to talk about today. The first, speaking of chocolate, is a milk chocolate Ritter bar. Ritter bars are very, very common German chocolate. I tried a dark chocolate one a few months back for a holiday snack attack. It was a dark chocolate marzipan. This one is just straight up milk chocolate. So I am going to try it. Interesting. Okay. It's not as creamy as I thought it was going to be. It's still good. It still is by far better than American chocolate, but it's not as good as like I would say like a Milka bar is. Milka bars are like super smooth, super creamy, and this doesn't quite get up to that level, but the flavor is still very good. The next thing I have are sour gummies. Sour gummies in general are one of my favorite snacks. I love them. And these ones are really cute. These are all in different shapes. We have a little unicorn. We have a little rainbow. Super, super cute. So I'm going to try these. Oh, I love gummies. I like the flavor of these a lot. There's a few different colors. There are a few different shapes. The different colors do have kind of different flavors, it seems. Overall, really good. To rate them, I'm going to give the Ritter Bar a 4 out of 5 because it's not quite as like smooth and creamy as I was expecting it to be. And the gummies, I'm going to give a 5 out of 5. That's all for this episode. If you have an idea of where you want me to try snacks from, send me a DM on Instagram at Carli Sees the World. And I will also be posting pictures of the snacks that I tried there today. Bye.
What the f***? Welcome back to another episode of What the... You get the point. So this week, since I talked about my road trip leading me through Finland and an encounter with Finnish mosquitoes, especially crossing the border, like, you know, how you have to open your window to show your papers. Yeah, that's when the mosquitoes strike. Anyway, I get carried off topic, but on the topic of mosquitoes, you might want to swear when you get bitten by them and you itch yourself. So if you're in Finland, you can say saatana, which literally means Satan, but it's used like damn it. So let me repeat that again. Saatana. 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 And then there is another one, which is used like bullshit. But the literal translation would be shitsberries, which I find hilarious. So if you're in the middle of the night waking up because there's still some mosquitoes in your van that you didn't kill, and you have to express your disbelief, you can say, Paskan marjat. Paskan marjat. Paskan marjat. Shitsberries or bullshit. Then there's also perkele, which means the devil, but it's more like a Baltic god of thunder, to be fair. And it's also used like damn. But the funny thing is that the Swedish have this expression for the Finnish process of decision making, which is where you make decisions fast and your boss yells profanities like perkele multiple times during the meeting. So this is called management by perkele. Perkele. And management, I hope you know how to pronounce that. So yeah, management by perkele. Next time you're in a meeting with your boss and there's a lot of ideas thrown around and a lot of yelling, you can tell them this funny anecdote and maybe it'll calm him down or make him more angry. I don't take responsibility for that at this point. You're an adult, you know what you're doing. Anyways, if you want to learn how to swear in a particular language or you want me to swear in your language, hit me up on Instagram at Sophia AEZ. Bye.
That's all for this episode. If you'd like more Away She Goes in your life, make sure to stop by heradventures.com/podcast. That's where you can fill out a form if you're interested in being a guest on the show. And you can also write to us at awayshegosgwt@gmail.com or leave us a message on our Google voicemail from any phone or computer at 1-563-503-6323. To follow our adventures, you can follow me on Instagram at Carli Sees the World. Carli is spelled Carli.
You can also follow me at Sophia AEZ. Sophia is spelled Sophia. Away She Goes is part of Her Adventures, a community dedicated to radically redefining travel to be inclusive, sustainable, and empowering. You can learn more about Her Adventures, find travel tips and support, shop travel-themed items made by our members, and join our Facebook group with nearly 100,000 women all around the world. All at heradventures.com. We can't wait to connect and explore with you. Away she goes.